The alarm started screaming at 6:47 a.m., and I knew someone was about to get hurt bad. I was walking past Base 7 when the overhead crane started swaying like a drunk sailor, its 2-ton steel beam load shifting dangerously toward the workstations below. 3 guys scrambled out of the way, hard hats flying, as the load crashed down exactly where they'd been standing 2 seconds earlier. "Shut it down," I yelled, hitting the emergency stop. The whole production line ground to a halt with a mechanical scream that echoed through the facility. "Everyone back. Nobody moves until we figure out what happened." That's when Gerald Jerry Matthews showed up, jogging across the factory floor in his pristine polo shirt and dress shoes that had never seen a day of real work. His face was already red, and I could see the calculations running behind his eyes. Downtime costs, schedule delays, explanations he'd have to give to the Pentagon inspectors coming next week. "What the hell happened here?" he demanded, looking around like he was searching for someone to blame. "Crane cable snapped," said Tony Rodriguez, our best crane operator, pointing up at the frayed steel cable dangling from the boom. "I've been reporting problems with this unit for 3 months. Filed 7 work orders. Nothing." Jerry's jaw tightened. "Equipment fails. That's why we have safety protocols." "Safety protocols don't fix worn cables," I said, stepping forward. "This was preventable." Jerry turned to look at me for the first time, his eyes scanning my basic work shirt and temporary ID badge. "And you are?" "Norman Patterson. Just started in operations." His expression shifted to that condescending smirk I'd been watching for 3 weeks now. "Well, Norman, when you've been running operations as long as I have, you'll understand that maintenance schedules have to balance safety with productivity. We can't shut down every time someone thinks they hear a funny noise." The workers around us went quiet. They'd heard this speech, heard this before. Tony's face darkened, but he didn't say anything. In this place, challenging Jerry was career suicide. "Right," I said simply. "Guess that makes sense." But inside, I was taking notes. This was exactly the kind of moment I'd been waiting for. "My name is Norman Patterson. I'm 48 years old, and for the past 20 years I've specialized in turning around operations that are broken from the inside out. The board of Westfield Aerospace brought me in for one specific job: save the $75 million defense contract that was hanging by a thread and clean up whatever was causing their best workers to quit in droves. Their only request was simple: spend 3 weeks undercover to see how things really worked before announcing my position as the new Director of Engineering and Technical Operations. Now, standing in Base 7, looking at a crane that nearly killed 3 people because of ignored maintenance reports, I was starting to understand just how deep the problems ran. Let me back up and tell you how I got here. Westfield Aerospace used to be a leader in defense manufacturing. They built components for fighter jets, transport aircraft, even some classified projects I can't talk about. But over the past 5 years, their reputation had been sliding downhill fast. Quality issues, missed deadlines, safety violations, all the red flags that make Pentagon procurement officers start looking elsewhere. When the board chairman called me, I could hear the desperation in his voice. "We're hemorrhaging talent," he'd said. "Our best engineers are leaving for competitors. The workers don't trust management. And if we lose this contract renewal, we'll have to lay off 400 people." That got my attention. I've seen a lot of failing operations, but 400 families depending on jobs that might disappear. That's not just a business problem. That's a community crisis. I accepted the job on one condition: complete anonymity for 3 weeks. No announcements, no executive privileges, no special treatment. I wanted to see Westfield as it really was, not the polished version they'd show to new leadership. What I found was worse than the quarterly reports suggested. This wasn't just inefficiency or outdated procedures. This was a systematic culture of favoritism, corner-cutting, and willful negligence that started at the top and infected everything. And Gerald Matthews was the infection. Not technically qualified as an engineer, Jerry had been at Westfield for 20 years, working his way up through a combination of politics, golf buddies, and knowing where the bodies were buried. He controlled resource allocation, work assignments, overtime approvals, and most importantly, who got heard when they had ideas for improvement. His inner circle was a collection of mediocre performers who owed their positions to loyalty rather than competence. Meanwhile, the real talent, guys like Tony Rodriguez, the young engineers with innovative ideas, the experienced workers who actually understood the production process. They got stuck with broken equipment, dangerous assignments, and bureaucratic roadblocks whenever they tried to suggest improvements. After we cleared Base 7 and started the incident report process, I made my way back to my cramped office at the end of the administrative wing. The nameplate on my desk was still face down, but tomorrow, that would change. Tomorrow, Gerald Matthews would learn exactly who he'd been dismissing for the past 3 weeks. But first, I had some homework to do. I pulled out my notebook and started documenting everything I'd observed. Bay 7's maintenance issues weren't isolated. They were part of a pattern. Over 3 weeks, I'd seen equipment failures that could have been prevented, safety reports that got buried, and worker suggestions that disappeared into bureaucratic black holes. The picture that emerged was crystal clear. Westfield wasn't failing because of market forces or technological obsolescence. It was failing because the people running day-to-day operations cared more about protecting their turf than protecting their workers or their contracts. That was about to change. The conference room incident happened exactly 2 hours after the crane accident. I was carrying my clipboard and laptop, heading to the engineering conference room I'd booked 3 days earlier to review the Bay 7 incident reports and safety documentation I'd been quietly collecting. The morning shift change was happening, workers streaming past in their coveralls and hard hats, most of them looking tired before their day even started. That's when Jerry stepped directly into my path outside the conference room door. "Excuse me," he said, not moving aside, "but I think there's been some confusion." I showed him my digital booking confirmation on my phone. "No confusion. Reserved this room for 9 a.m. Here's my confirmation number." His mouth curled into that familiar smirk, the same one I'd seen him use on Tony Rodriguez and half a dozen other workers over the past 3 weeks. His company polo was stretched tight across his gut, and he straightened up to use every inch of his height advantage like he was marking territory. "This room," he said, tapping his finger against the brass nameplate that read Engineering Conference Room. "Senior staff only, is for senior management, not for..." His eyes swept over my basic work shirt, steel-toed boots, and temporary ID badge that simply read Norman Patterson, Operations. "Not for guys like you." Heat crawled up my neck. Through the glass walls, I could see a couple of supervisors nearby suddenly becoming very interested in their coffee cups and morning reports. They'd witnessed this before. Hell, everyone had. It was part of the culture here, the casual humiliation, the constant reminders of who belonged and who didn't. "The booking system doesn't mention any rank restrictions," I said, keeping my voice level and professional. Jerry sighed like he was dealing with a particularly slow child. "Look, Norman. It is Norman, right? I've been running operations here for 20 years, 2 decades of keeping this place running smooth because we understand how things work. There's a hierarchy for a reason." He gestured toward the freight elevator at the end of the hall. "There's a perfectly good break room downstairs. That's where new guys work on their projects until they prove themselves, until they understand how we do things here." The downstairs break room. I'd been down there plenty of times during my 3 weeks of observation. Broken chairs held together with duct tape, fluorescent lights that flickered constantly, Wi-Fi that worked maybe half the time, and a coffee machine that hadn't functioned properly since the Bush administration, the first one. It's where good ideas went to die slow bureaucratic deaths. "I see," I said simply. "Thanks for clearing that up." His smirk widened. "Glad we understand each other. Nothing personal, you understand, just the way things work." I nodded and walked away, heading toward my small office at the end of the administrative wing. But I wasn't heading to the break room. Not today. I had other plans. Only when I closed my office door did I allow myself to glance at the nameplate sitting face down on my desk, the one that would be installed first thing tomorrow morning, the one that read Norman Patterson, Director of Engineering and Technical Operations. See, here's what Jerry didn't know about me. I'd spent 20 years building my career on patience and observation. While other executives chased quarterly bonuses and quick fixes, I focused on understanding systems, how they really worked, not how they were supposed to work. At 48, I'd become known in defense industry circles as the cleanup specialist, the guy companies called when their operations were broken beyond conventional repair. I'd turned around failing aerospace facilities in Texas, automotive plants in Michigan, and electronics manufacturers in California. My method was always the same. Observe first, understand the real problems, then implement changes that actually worked instead of changes that looked good in PowerPoint presentations. Westfield had called me because they were 6 months away from losing their biggest contract. The Pentagon was tired of missed deadlines, quality issues, and safety violations. If they didn't see dramatic improvement by the next quarterly review, $75 million in annual revenue would disappear, taking 400 jobs with it. The board chairman had been blunt during our initial conversation. Our metrics are terrible, our workers don't trust management, and our best people keep leaving for competitors. We need someone who can see what we're missing. I'd accepted on one condition: 3 weeks of complete anonymity to observe normal operations without the artificial behavior that inevitably accompanied new leadership announcements. What I'd discovered was both simpler and more complex than the board realized. Westfield wasn't Westfield, failing because of technology problems or market pressures. They were failing because Gerald Matthews had spent 2 decades building a system that rewarded loyalty over competence, connections over innovation, and bureaucratic gamesmanship over actual results. It was a masterpiece of dysfunction, really. Jerry controlled resource allocation, project assignments, overtime approvals, conference room access, and most importantly, whose ideas got heard by upper management. He'd cultivated an inner circle of mediocre performers who owed their positions to personal relationships rather than professional competence. Meanwhile, the real talent, experienced workers like Tony Rodriguez, innovative engineers with cost-saving ideas, safety specialists who understood the equipment, they got stuck with broken machinery, dangerous assignments, and endless bureaucratic roadblocks whenever they tried to contribute meaningful improvements. I documented it all meticulously. The maintenance requests that disappeared, the safety reports that got buried, the brilliant process improvements that were dismissed without consideration because they came from the wrong people. The pattern was so consistent, it was almost mathematical. For instance, over the past 18 months, workers in Jerry's favor circle had received premium equipment assignments 89% of the time, regardless of experience or performance metrics. Their improvement suggestions were implemented within 30 days on average. They received overtime opportunities at nearly 3 times the rate of other workers with similar qualifications. Meanwhile, workers who'd questioned procedures or suggested changes that might reflect poorly on existing management found themselves assigned to the oldest equipment, working the least desirable shifts, and watching their ideas vanish into administrative black holes. The crane incident this morning was just the latest example. Tony Rodriguez had been reporting problems with Bay 7's overhead crane for 3 months. 7 work orders, all properly documented, all ignored. Why? Because Tony had made the mistake of pointing out safety violations in Jerry's pet projects too many times. Now 3 workers had nearly been killed because maintenance schedules were being determined by politics rather than engineering requirements. But that was about to change. Tomorrow morning, the board would announce my appointment. Tomorrow afternoon, I'd be conducting my first all-hands meeting. And Gerald Matthews was about to learn what it felt like to be on the receiving end of his own system. 23 minutes after our hallway encounter, there was a soft knock on my office door. I glanced at my watch, 9:47 a.m., right on schedule. "Come in," I called, sliding my documentation into a desk drawer. Jerry entered with the confident stride of someone who'd spent 2 decades controlling rooms and conversations. His practiced smile faltered slightly when he took in my deliberately modest office, the smallest space in the operations wing, furnished with a basic metal desk and 2 mismatched chairs that probably came from a government surplus sale. "Wanted to personally welcome you to the Westfield team," he began, settling into the chair across from me without being invited. "Don't think we've been properly introduced since you started. I'm Gerald Matthews, Senior Operations Manager." He extended his hand with the firm grip of someone who'd learned early that first impressions mattered in corporate politics. "Norman Patterson," I replied. "Appreciate you taking the time. Of course, we're all family here." His eyes swept around the cramped space, taking in the bare walls and basic furniture. "How are you settling in? Everything meeting expectations?" Then his gaze fell on something that made his expression change. There, on my desk, was the nameplate I'd deliberately left face down but positioned so it was partially visible from his angle. Just a corner of the engraved text, showing, but enough to catch attention. "What's that?" he asked, leaning forward slightly. I flipped the nameplate upright with deliberate slowness. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might need medical attention. "Director of Engineering and Technical Operations," he read aloud, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "The board's official announcement goes out tomorrow morning," I said calmly. I requested 3 weeks to observe normal operations before assuming my official role. He sank back in his chair like someone had let the air out of him. The confident posture, the practiced smile, the casual authority, all of it crumbled in real time. His pearl necklace. Wait, that was from the original story. His confident demeanor dissolved completely. The conference room incident, he managed. I didn't realize. That was exactly the point, I replied. 3 weeks of seeing this facility as it really operates instead of the performance you put on when leadership is watching. I could see his mind racing, probably calculating damage control strategies, trying to figure out how to spin 20 years of systematic favoritism into something that looked like sound management principles. Mr. Patterson, he began, voice steadying as he attempted to regain his composure. In my 20 years here, I've developed systems that maintain our operational standards. Sometimes that requires making difficult decisions about resource allocation and priority assignments. Interesting approach to resource allocation, I noted, opening my laptop. I've been particularly studying our incident reports. Did you know Bay 7 has had 23 near-miss safety incidents in the past 8 months? Yet that's consistently where our newest workers get assigned, while your your senior staff, get the newer, safer equipment. His jaw tightened for a moment before he forced another smile. Safety incidents happen in any manufacturing environment. We follow all OSHA guidelines and maintain comprehensive reporting procedures, along with the pattern of which workers consistently receive defective equipment assignments, I continued, clicking to a spreadsheet I'd been building. Like Rebecca Walsh, the young engineer whose welding process improvement was just adopted by Lockheed Martin. She left Westfield after 9 months of being assigned malfunctioning machinery despite her breakthrough efficiency results. Individual cases don't necessarily reflect overall operational patterns, Jerry said carefully. I'd be happy to walk you through our complete allocation procedures tomorrow. With your fresh perspective and my institutional knowledge, we could develop quite an effective partnership. The practiced charm was returning, right on schedule. He'd survived 3 different directors before me, each time adapting his approach until new leadership moved on, and he could gradually restore his preferred power structure. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's executive meeting, I said, offering nothing more. He stood up, smoothing his polo shirt and attempting to reassert some dignity. Should I have facilities move your belongings to the executive suite this afternoon? No need. I'll continue working from here until after tomorrow's announcements. Confusion flickered across his face. Why would a new director choose to stay in the worst office in the building? But he nodded professionally. As you prefer. And please, feel free to use any conference room whenever you need. I'll personally ensure they're always available for your use. That won't be necessary, I replied. The online booking system works perfectly when everyone follows the same protocols. He paused at the door, calculating one final approach. Mr. Patterson, I hope we can move past this morning's unfortunate misunderstanding. In my defense, the board maintained complete confidentiality about your identity and position. Yes, I said, meeting his gaze directly. They did exactly as I requested. As the door closed behind him, I returned to my documentation. The real work was just beginning. That afternoon, I made a trip down to the basement break room where the real innovation was happening. The fluorescent lights still flickered, the coffee machine still wheezed and groaned, and the furniture still looked like it belonged in a 1980s garage sale. But this depressing space buzzed with energy as 8 workers huddled around tables, laptops open, sketching diagrams on napkins and passionately debating technical solutions. They called themselves the Basement Brigade, a mix of experienced machinists, young engineers, safety specialists, and quality control technicians who'd been systematically marginalized by Jerry's network. What they lacked in administrative support, they made up for in genuine expertise and innovative thinking. Don't mind me, I said, taking a seat in the back corner. Please continue. After a moment of uncertainty, a sharp-eyed woman in coveralls stood up. As I was explaining, she continued, our new welding sequence reduces material waste by 18%, while improving joint strength by 12%. We could save the company approximately $340,000 annually if implemented facility-wide. She clicked to advance her slide presentation, but the ancient laptop refused to cooperate. After several attempts, she sighed in frustration. Technology down here is always hit or miss. Here, let me try, offered a grizzled machinist with 25 years of experience. Rebecca's work deserves proper presentation. This methodology could revolutionize our production efficiency if given adequate support and resources. I watched Rebecca's presentation unfold, genuinely impressed by its elegance and practical application. Her approach was brilliant, a simple process modification that could save substantial money while improving product quality. Yet here she was presenting in a basement break room with failing equipment while premium conference rooms sat empty upstairs. "Have you presented this to department leadership?" I asked when she finished. Rebecca's shoulders tensed visibly. 5 times over the past 7 months. Each time I was told it required additional development before receiving consideration for implementation resources. Meanwhile, Peterson's conveyor modification got full funding approval in 2 weeks, despite actually increasing our downtime by 8%. "Peterson's been Jerry's golf partner for 12 years, muttered another engineer. "Same country club, same poker game every Thursday night." The pattern was becoming crystal clear, and tomorrow everything would change. Morning arrived with a flurry of congratulatory emails as the board's official announcement hit every inbox at Westfield. My office phone started ringing at 7:15 a.m. and didn't stop until I finally unplugged it. The nameplate on my door had been professionally installed overnight. Brass letters on walnut backing, mounted with proper screws instead of the temporary adhesive strips given to other new hires. The executive meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. in the main conference room, the same one Jerry had barred me from accessing 24 hours earlier. When I arrived 15 minutes early, he was already there, arranging water bottles at each seat with military precision, his movements tighter and more controlled than usual. "Mr. Patterson," he said, his voice carefully modulated, "I've prepared comprehensive briefing materials for your introduction." He handed me a thick folder containing talking points that painted Westfield in glowing terms, highlighting achievements from 5 years ago while glossing over current problems. "I've marked key accomplishments you might want to reference during your remarks." "Thanks, but I've prepared my own presentation," I replied, connecting my laptop to the room's display system. His smile remained fixed. "Of course, but as someone new to our organizational culture, you might find these institutional insights valuable. I'm happy to guide you through any potential sensitivities or historical context." "I appreciate the offer," I said, testing the projection system, "but I believe I've developed a reasonably comprehensive understanding during my observation period." Department heads and senior staff began filing in, curiosity and tension evident in their expressions. Some I recognized as members of Jerry's inner circle, their reserved parking spaces, their consistent project approvals, their immunity from the equipment failures that plagued other workers. They took seats at the main conference table with the casual confidence of people accustomed to privilege. Others entered more hesitantly, the marginalized voices, the innovative thinkers who'd been systematically sidelined. They instinctively moved toward chairs along the walls, a behavioral pattern ingrained through years of implicit exclusion. "Please," I gestured to Rebecca and several members of the basement brigade hovering uncertainly near the door, "join us at the main table. Every perspective is critical for what we're discussing today." Jerry's controlled smile tightened almost imperceptibly as he watched his carefully maintained social order being rearranged. "We typically follow established seating protocols for meeting efficiency," he said diplomatically. "Not today," I replied simply. When everyone was settled, I began without preamble. "For the past 3 weeks, I've observed this facility not as its new director, but as an ordinary worker. What I've discovered has been both deeply troubling and profoundly illuminating." The room went dead silent. On the large screen behind me, data began to appear, not emotional appeals or personal anecdotes, but hard numbers showing resource allocation patterns, safety incident correlations, and innovation approval rates mapped against proximity to administrative influence rather than technical merit or safety requirements. Over the past 24 months, this facility has lost 47 skilled workers, I continued methodically. Of them have gone on to make significant contributions at our direct competitors, taking their expertise and institutional knowledge with them. Meanwhile, our own efficiency metrics have declined by 34%. We're 8 months behind on Pentagon deliverables, and we've had 67 preventable safety incidents. Peterson, one of Jerry's golf partners, shifted uncomfortably. "With respect, Mr. Patterson, complex manufacturing operations require experienced management. Not every worker can access premium resources simultaneously. There has to be some prioritization system." "Absolutely correct," I acknowledged. which is why resource allocation should correlate with demonstrated competence and safety requirements rather than personal relationships or social connections. I clicked to the next slide showing a detailed correlation analysis between equipment assignments and proximity to Jerry's influence network. The pattern was mathematically undeniable. This isn't about individual blame or personal failings, I clarified, noting Jerry's increasingly rigid posture as the data mounted. Organizational cultures evolve over time, often with unintended consequences. Our responsibility now is systematic correction, not personal accusation. For the next 75 minutes, I methodically outlined comprehensive operational reforms, transparent resource allocation protocols, anonymous safety reporting systems, blind review processes for improvement suggestions, equipment assignment based on documented competence rather than administrative favor, and rotating access to premium facilities and training opportunities. Throughout my presentation, Jerry maintained perfect professional composure, taking careful notes and nodding at appropriate intervals. Only the increasing tension in his jaw and the whitening of his knuckles as he gripped his pen betrayed the magnitude of what was happening. Finally, I reached the conclusion everyone was expecting. Effective immediately, we're implementing fundamental changes to our operational management structure. The room held its collective breath. This was the moment many anticipated, Jerry's termination or public demotion. He sat straighter, chin lifting slightly as if preparing for an inevitable blow. Our senior operations manager will now lead a newly created Operational Excellence Initiative, I announced. Mr. Matthews' 20 years of institutional experience makes him uniquely qualified to implement these comprehensive reforms. Confusion rippled through the room like a wave. Jerry's expression shifted from resigned acceptance to complete bewilderment. I don't understand, he said carefully. You'll personally oversee implementation of every new protocol we've discussed today, I explained. Your responsibilities will include monthly public reporting on resource allocation equity, safety improvement metrics, innovation approval diversity, and equipment assignment transparency. You'll also chair our new Worker Excellence Committee, comprised of representatives from every level of operations, including our colleagues who've been meeting in the basement facilities. The full scope of his situation dawned slowly in his eyes. He wasn't being removed or demoted, he was being transformed. Every policy he would now enforce directly contradicted 20 years of his previous management approach. Every report he would file would document the very inequities he had created and maintained. Additionally, I continued, you'll be responsible for ensuring our most innovative workers receive priority access to premium resources and development opportunities. Starting with full implementation support for Rebecca's welding efficiency improvements and immediate equipment upgrades for Bay 7's safety systems. You want me to systematically dismantle everything I've built here, he stated flatly. I want you to transform it, I corrected. Your comprehensive knowledge of current systems makes you the ideal person to guide their evolution toward actual operational excellence rather than administrative convenience. As the meeting concluded, department heads filed out with expressions ranging from relief to uncertainty. Rebecca and her colleagues departed with cautious optimism, stealing backward glances as if fearing this transformation might somehow evaporate. Jerry remained seated, his professional composure finally cracking completely. Why not simply terminate me? He asked when we were alone. Because this position aligns perfectly with your stated commitment to operational excellence, I replied. You've consistently emphasized your dedication to maintaining standards. Now you'll maintain different standards, ones based on competence and safety rather than personal connections. You're using me as a public example, he said, his voice hardening. Professional humiliation disguised as career opportunity. No, Jerry, I'm offering genuine transformation. Your institutional knowledge is genuinely valuable. It just needs to be applied towards solving problems rather than perpetuating them. He gathered his materials with forced dignity. I've outlasted 3 directors before you, Mr. Patterson. I'm aware, I said calmly, each time gradually returning to familiar patterns once initial scrutiny diminished. I met his gaze directly. That won't happen this time. 6 months later, I watched Jerry conduct Westfield's first facility-wide innovation forum, where any worker could present improvement ideas regardless of seniority or administrative connections. His voice remained steady as he introduced Rebecca as the keynote speaker, publicly acknowledging her breakthrough contributions to manufacturing efficiency that had helped secure our Pentagon contract renewal. The ultimate satisfaction wasn't in Jerry's punishment, but in his transformation. Forced to become the public champion of principles he'd spent decades undermining, required to witness daily the extraordinary innovation that flourished once. Artificial barriers were eliminated. Sometimes the most effective revenge isn't about destruction. It's about meaningful change that benefits everyone, especially when the person who created the problems becomes the one responsible for implementing the solutions. The best part? Watching someone discover that actual excellence produces far better results than artificial hierarchy ever could. And yes, we kept that $75 million contract. Turns out the Pentagon appreciates facilities where safety and innovation are prioritized over golf partnerships. The most powerful revenge isn't making your enemies suffer, it's making them succeed at doing what's right. Sometimes the best way to destroy a corrupt system is to force the person who built it to rebuild it properly.